Going live on YouTube. I'm trying not to say the stuff I always say. We're going to be talking POS systems today. Okay. Well, welcome on YouTube and welcome at DAC Zoom. I'm excited to cover this information. I'm always excited to talk to all of y'all. I mean, if we all could work out of the same training center every day and get 7,000 of us showing up together, imagine the movement we'd make, the ripple effect. You talk about a hand grenade is 1 liter going into a town to make an impact. Imagine all of us, boom, we're like, you could just see it. Anyway, that's the ripple effect we're making. Listen, I want to get right down to it, though. We're going to be talking POS systems today. A lot of people get a little intimidated by POS, and it's really not that big of a deal. In fact, your phone is just like a POS system. It's got a phone number in it. POS systems, whether it's shaped like a little reader or whether it's an app on their phone or whether it's a big software with a checkout scanner like at the grocery store, anytime you put your card in something, the little square reader, they have what's built into it, what's called an MID. It's like a phone number, but it's a merchant ID number. As long as you can switch the merchant ID on their POS, they don't need new equipment. They just switch it. Just like if I got a new phone and I walk into Verizon, which is who we use, and say, hey, I've got my old phone here I want to give to my son, and I want to put his phone number on this Verizon phone and put my phone number on my new phone, they can do that because we both use Verizon. It's real easy. Verizon would be like the processor in this case. The phone number would be like an MID. You can always use the same equipment if it's just a matter of moving the MID over. Okay. But when I say always, let me slow down a minute and say, unless that equipment, like if I take this phone to AT&T, they may go, yeah, we allow iPhones, but we don't allow you to bring that phone from Verizon. Verizon has it locked to Verizon. You can't bring it over to AT&T. It's kind of what they do to keep you on Verizon. You'd have to jailbreak it or unlock it. And you're like, well, come on, Verizon, why you do that to me? Why you do me like that? And so some POS systems, the processor has locked it where you can't take it to a different processor without getting a new reader. Now, it's very rare, but it does happen. So I'm going to go through the 3 types of processors and how we resolve all of them because we have an answer for all of them. Okay, let's go through it. Number 1, you have your phone, which is just a basic app, right? So you can get, a lot of people at the local farmers market or, someone selling something out on the beach or traveling what do you call them? Those trucks, food trucks. Sometimes they just have a card reader right on their phone. They swipe it right through their phone, right? And there's an app built in here, and all you do is open up the processor's app. Every one of our processors has an app. And then you enter your MID number. It's really simple. It's just like moving a phone over. You just change the MID number. You run a test transaction, make sure it gets deposited in your bank account, and you're ready to go. You're already live with us. So it's just a matter of typing in a new MID number. And our teams, our processors will always help your customer if they don't know how. So that's number 1. They've got a phone. We just download our processor app onto the phone, put in our MID, and away they go. It doesn't matter if they have Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, doesn't matter any of that, or what type of phone they have, right? There's an app for that. So that's the phone. That's the easiest for smaller businesses. But now others have card readers. You go into the coffee shop, you go into the store, it doesn't matter, the restaurant, a clothing store, they have a card reader. You all know that. You put your card in. Same thing. They're Ingenicos and there's some standards that all processors use. And those are real simple. They're usually not locked. If we switch someone, they can keep using that same reader. They just have to change the MID number in it. And we walk them through how to do it. It's very simple. It's easier than changing a phone number on a phone. It really is that easy. You go in, reprogram it to the new MID number, and our experts, again, at our processors, help walk the customers through it. But don't be overwhelmed by it. It's like a 4-step process. Open up this, hit MID, edit MID, change the MID, save, done. I mean, it's literally that quick. And a couple times there's an extra security steps and stuff. But the bottom line is it's really simple to change the MID number. Remember, that's the number we're trying to get on this. The MID number goes to the client. That's what generates the who gets paid, right? So that piece of equipment could be used for 20 businesses. If this person takes this piece of equipment and gives it to a friend, and that friend puts their MID number on it, now it's their friend's business. You're not going to switch back and forth all day long, obviously, but if these equipments aren't garbage, I got a POS system right over there from my old company that we can take live today. Now, it doesn't have a chip reader in it, but if we wanted to just allow people to swipe it, you pay more for swipe over chip. So you'd rather than put the chip in. That's why they came out with the new equipment. It costs less to the merchant or to the processor if they use the chip. It's more secure. It's encrypted every time. So you put the MID number on, your way to go. Now, where does the complexity lie? The complexity lies primarily when you have a big piece of equipment like a restaurant that has a menu in it, or a grocery store that you've got 100,000 items already in the software. So there's software and equipment. That's when it starts to get a little more complex. Why? Because some software only works with some processors. So maybe there's only 5 processors who can use this software in the grocery store. And maybe that restaurant's got this real cool restaurant thing where everyone's got their little tablet at the table, or the hostesses and serving staff, chefs, they all know how the tickets print out already. They've already got it zoned in. They all know exactly how to use their restaurant software, ticket printing, a printing at the carryout, a printer at the oven, a printer at the pizza station, a printer over here, right? It's all like perfectly all set up. And they're like, I love the fact of going to dual pricing and saving money, but I can't switch softwares. My company, we've got 50 employees who already know how to use this software. And I'm not going to change the software to save a little bit of money. So they got to use the same software. So then it comes down to, well, what processors can they put on that software? And there may only be 5. There may only be 1 or 2. And if they're already on, let's say, WorldPay, and WorldPay is there's only like 5 or 6 underlying banks, but then there's a lot of processors who represent them. If they're on a processor here that they love, and we're going, hey, we want to move you, and they say, great. And our processor looks at it and goes, oh, sorry, we can't support that software. We lose the customer, right? You wouldn't be able to put our MID on there with our processor. You wouldn't be able to. So now they got to get new equipment or new software. New costs, changeover training time, all that stuff. That's frustrating, right? Well, one of our advantages is, just like with our funding, we have one stop best offer in funding. You may not get approved at on DAC, which is the best pricing available usually. Sometimes we beat it. You may only be able to get approved at Biddy, high pricing, but approved. You get to say no rather than us. Same with this. We have multiple processors. So one of the advantages of dealing with DAC is, if you work for a processor, that processor says, sorry, we don't support that kitchen software. You're going to have to get a new software and new equipment to switch over to our processor. That restaurant owner is probably going to say, no, I'm good. Thanks. And they'll just call their processor back and say, hey, get me on dual pricing. I heard this dual pricing thing. Do you guys offer it? Because someone else told me about it, but they want me to buy new software and get new equipment because their processor is not compatible with our software and equipment. So you lose them. But because of us, we have multiple processors. So we find out the type of software they have. This is why it's critical we ask this on the first page. What type of software and what type of equipment? The reason we say that is because now we know it's not necessarily important here. We can pretty much get their MIDs on these things. But when you have a big software built into it, and menus and tip tickets, and someone orders a pizza and it's printed out by the oven, there's printouts everywhere, all kinds of stuff already built in. We want to be able to keep them with a processor that doesn't require new software. So if we know this is, I'm just going to make up a name, Kitchen Pro. I don't think that's a real name, but I don't want to speak about a processor mistakenly and say they're locked in or don't lock in. Let's say this has got a software called Kitchen Pro on it, and Kitchen Pro only uses one processor. It's the only one they can use. And we go to move them and we're like, okay, we got to keep them on this processor. Now, when I say processor, I don't mean DAC versus ABC payment processing. I mean, there's literally a processor taking the risk, works directly with Visa. We have a contract with them. So we have a contract with many. And so this one software, we go, okay, they're using ABC processor, let's say. And that's the only one they can use. It doesn't matter that we have 10 others who are great. Kitchen Pro is only contract with ABC. We got to keep them on ABC. We can still get the business because we have a contract right here with ABC. So now we say, okay, our partners who are doing our quoting for us say, okay, it's got to stay on ABC because they're using Kitchen Pro. We've got an agreement with ABC, and we go to ABC and okay, we've got this client. They're already on, but we can move them. We can move them. You're allowed to move to a new team. We want to move this customer over, and you can do a quote and do all the same stuff. We want to get a new MID. We're going to keep the same software on their equipment, keep everything the same. We're going to keep them on ABC as well, but we're going to become the sales agent of record rather than who they currently have. And that's how we do it if they're locked in on a certain processor. So if this software can go to 3 processors, maybe there's a reason to be on this one instead of ABC. Maybe ABC is one of the processors, but we have 2 others, and this one might be better because they're better with fraud detection, they're better on pricing, they're better on whatever different things, better in compliance, whatever the thing may be. We may say, hey, we're going to move you off ABC and we're going to go to FG processor, let's just say. We're going to move you to FG processor because there's other benefits, and you can still use the same software. It's not a problem. We're going to put their MID on here, and it doesn't. They support. They're compatible with that software. So it's really simple if you're just changing an MID number, and it's even simple here because of how many processors we represent. So we find out the software, the equipment, and then we find out what type processors can that software support. And then we present the best offer to that client for their software. Isn't that cool? Now, here's what's going on in the industry, why this is important. There's processors buying software companies. So one of the biggest kitchen softwares out there got purchased by a processor and said, you can only use us. One processor. We bought your software. It's one of the biggest in the country. We bought the software. You can't leave us without buying new software. You can't use our software unless it's with us. We're King Processor, we'll just call them. King Processor says, no, you love this King software because it's one of the best softwares out there in the kitchen industry. You can't leave our processing. Sorry, someone quotes you, it's great. You can leave if you buy new software. You can leave if you want to buy all this new stuff, or just talk to us and we'll help you out. So what did DAC do? What does our processing team do? Contract with King Processor. So that when we just had one of these, Hugh just helped a client with one of these situations where we can't move them to any other processors because they're on King software. And King software only allows one processor, so we need to make sure we represent King processor as well so that we can move that deal over to us where we're getting credit. They have the same software, they have the same equipment, they have the same processor. We just become the agent of record instead of who they currently have. So I'm going to summarize. A phone, you just switch the MID. It's really simple. You download the app from our processor. The card reader, very simple. Doesn't matter if it's an iPad, doesn't matter if it's all these cool little devices that you see. In the end, they just have an MID number in them. You change that MID and everything works. They're live with us. Now there's some things out there like Clover, where Clover doesn't allow you to leave without buying new equipment. There are some companies out there that are restrictive, Clover being the first one I can think of, Stripe, things like that. You can't keep their equipment and leave them. Right? Because they own the equipment and they're the processor, and they say you don't get to leave Clover unless you buy new Clover equipment. You could still use Clover, but you switch processors, you got to buy all new equipment. I've only had it 6 months. Sorry, you got to buy new equipment. So there are some restrictions, but for the most part, most processors out there, most equipment, you can just put a new MID on it. And then here you got a software and equipment. We make sure that whatever software they're using, we can get them a processor that's compatible with that so they don't have to buy new equipment and new software. I remember years ago when we first started, we'd say, yeah, sometimes you're going to have to buy new software and equipment. You're going to have to because our processor didn't support that software. Now we don't have to say that because we've gone out and instead say, okay, if King Processor is the only one with the software, we'll have an agreement with King Processor. And if there's 3 softwares that support Queen software, we'll make sure we got 3 processor contracts as well. So whichever one we need to take it to, just like Wade looks at all the fundings and says this package should go to these 4 providers first. I think it'll get approved. If so, it's going to be the best pricing. If I send it to those other 15, they're going to approve them for sure, but the price is going to be lower than these 4 anyway. So why waste their time? Why waste my time? We'll send them to these 4. And if they don't get approved at these 4, then we waterfall process down to the other funders. It's the same thing with this. We need to know this first. So that's why when you're talking to them, find out what type of software they have, what type of equipment, what model software they have, things like that. That's why it's on our intake sheet, because that speeds our quoting process up. No reason to quote processor 2, 3, 4, and 5 if they can only use processor 1. And we don't know if they can only use processor 1 until we know this, what software they're using. All right, hopefully that helps. Let's go to some questions. 2 minutes late. Anyone have a question about this? POS systems. Okay, good. Pretty self-explanatory. We can get pretty much anything. If you see it out there, we've got it as well. And this is what's a benefit of having multiple processors in our tool belt. All right, team. We have nothing else. I think it is time to go then. God bless you all. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on the Agent Update. I'm looking forward to some stuff we're going to talk about tomorrow. God bless you. Have a good day.